Welcome to another Unwinding with Fiber and Fabric. We are now 10 days till Christmas, if my calculations are correct. If you watched me last year in Vlogmas, you will remember I had little mini calendar, little mini quilts that I was using as a countdown, a calendar of sorts. And they always were right behind me as I sat and I spun and I spoke to you all. Well, what I was trying to do this year is to make a mini quilt for each month, leaving the day by day only to December when I'm actually trying to pay attention, but instead just have a little mini quilt for each month. Well, I managed to get a few of the months done, but I hadn't managed to get December's done until just this past, in fact, yeah, just this past Monday, I think. And I got up early. My husband and I had plans to do a little Christmas shopping, go and see some lights, have lunch together. And so I got up early, mainly because I seem to be waking up early anyhow. And I went in and I worked on, I'll show a picture right here. I went and worked on my December, and it's a design by Embroidery Library. And I was just, I was delighted. And every time I see it as I walk by, it makes me happier. Something just about that design just makes me happier than most. So from where I am sitting right at this moment, I can see the December mini quilt and the date quilt. So I actually can keep track when I'm making these videos. But I believe, if I'm not mistaken, this will be the last video that I upload before Christmas. So I have another English paper piecing block to share with you. And I have a craft. The craft today is a recycle, an upcycle, I guess you could say. So let's just go ahead and dive in. I do want to mention it's been a little chaotic. It's been very, very chaotic here. My big Christmas tree right here outside of the screenshot has lights on it. It does not have ornaments on it. And we're not really sure if it's going to get ornaments this year. There's a story that I will share with you. But let's wait until the end of the video. And instead, let's talk about this upcycle that I have right now. So this week's craft is both fulfilling a utilitarian need and helping me finally do something with a pair of handmade slipper socks that I just couldn't get rid of, but one of them was way beyond repair and the ability to wear it. So my thought was, let's do an upcycle. Let's make it into an ornament. So I made a little ornament, and he has little safety eyes. He doesn't have a mouth, unless you count the blue thing. I mean, maybe he has a beard, the blue stripe. But this is some hand-spun self-striping. It was some yarn that I spun years ago, and the stripes in it are done by having dyed some lighter color, some darker color, in essence, dyeing the locks, dyeing the wool when they're in the lock still. And then when I was spinning it, I would grab a group of the darker, a group of the lighter. And so while it is self-striping, it's very random and very uneven. It's not quite the same as if I had painted the yarn, dyed the yarn after it was spun. So that is the remnant. Plus a tiny little ball. That is the remnant of the sock that had the big holes in it. I was able to salvage enough, unwinding some of it to have a small ball of yarn that I was able to use as the hanger for it. And so that's a really great Christmas tree ornament on the large size, which is actually turning out to be a good kind of thing based on the story I have about Christmas trees that I'll share later. But what to do with the sock that only had one hole and it was up on the upper part. Actually, I just noticed in the ribbing there was a hole there too. I'll have to mend. But what to do with the sock that was in fairly good shape? The door to my office doesn't like to stay open. And most of the time, my step ladder that I use, anytime I have to get to anything higher than a step stool. So I have a step ladder that's just a one step up or, type thing that I use for, if it's just like something in the kitchen. But I have a really wonderful step ladder that it's a 2-step, that 2 or 3 step, but it's not very, it's not very many steps, but it has this wonderful arch handle at the top. So as I step up it, I'm holding on to something. And that's what I use to get to a lot of my bins of supply, my craft supplies, because I keep a lot of my craft supplies on shelving, and the top shelving pieces are always outside of my reach. And because one of the things I've learned over the years is that when you're doing crafting, and there's never enough space. You always have to use your vertical space whenever possible, because crafters, you just run out of space. So I have, in my office, I have lined all the, one whole wall is all windows. So the other walls we have lined with shelving, easily adjustable, but for the most part, we don't intend to ever move them, but shelving units, and they're wonderful. I have bins that I have purchased that fit a lot of my, especially my small stuff, my the different crafting supplies, the notions, things like that. And so my to be able to access any of these things, because they're all, a lot of the top shelf of it is above the windows, above my head. I have a step ladder that I use, and it's wonderful. It's better than it's different than most like construction ladders and such, because that handle on the top means that I can go up and down it while holding on, keeping my balance. So it's my personal, don't know if I'll ever see one like it again, but it is my personal stay safe, because my daughter especially is like, she said one day, she said, Mom is kind of like having a toddler. If it's quiet, you really got to go track her down and find out what kind of trouble she's getting into, because they hate to have me getting up and down the ladders, but I have to. I mean, I can't stop functioning because no one's here at the moment. So that ladder gives everybody a bit of peace of mind, because I can use it safely. But when I'm using it, then the office door swings shut, because there's nothing to keep it open. And it's one of those that the way it's hung, whatever, the gravity pulls it shut. And I don't like having it shut because I have 4 cats. And if you shut a door, they think it's time to scratch at the door, regardless of whether they wanted to be in the room or not. Shutting the doors is just something our cats don't do well with. Excuse me. So the long story of this utilitarian item, what to do with my second sock, is it is now a doorstop. I have filled some stocking, nylon hose, pantyhose, with some beads. The tied off at the top is, I can untie it. So if I ever had to wash this, I could take the beads that are down here, and then there's just batting scraps here. So my doorstop is a slightly weighted, and you can see there's a mend here. There's, I think, one more mend somewhere else on it. But, oh yes, there's a mend here on the front. There's a mend here on the back. And so my doorstop is now a recycled, upcycled slipper sock. This one held together fine. The other one, I ended up with holes in the toe, holes in the heel, completely, you know, the whole bottom of it shot. So that's the upcycle. I know it's not anything really complicated, but for the knitters, this is something to do with, you know, when your socks have worn out. And there's a lot of things that, I mean, there's a lot of ways you can do it. Hot water bottles, things like that. I mean, if I filled a bag with rice, I could do this as a microwavable, you know, oh, that actually could be really nice. You know, you have the little bags that are filled with rice, and you put it in the microwave for a bit, and you can set it on your eyes or use it as a heating pad. That'd be another thing that this sock could work as. And my cute little guy, see, he's a little ominous, isn't he? He has a little, whoops, his nose is crooked. So it's a simple craft. If you're not a knitter, though, this would be a fun project with any socks, especially the really good boot socks that you can get. We were in the store the other day, and they were selling some big, thick boot socks that were red and green done up for Christmas. So think about, if you have those on hand, how they can be used. So door prop and an ornament. So let's do the EPP block, and then I'll tell you the tale of the tree. But before, so you may notice it's a little bit chaotic. It's not a tremendously complicated craft in any way, shape, or form today. It's been crazy here. There was a project that we thought we were going to need to start between Christmas. We expected it between Christmas and New Year's. And we had a little bit of a surprise, and we needed to start the project earlier. So we're still finishing the construction, the exterior construction on our shed/tiny house. And we all of a sudden received word. Technically, the email came to me late Friday evening, probably right towards the end of the business day on the West Coast. But I didn't see the email until Sunday. But the email was telling me that the project was going to arrive as soon as they could have it delivered. So my husband and I had planned to go shopping on Monday. We were going to have a day together, and then we were going to spend this week doing construction. He took the week off initially with the idea that we'd be doing, you know, Christmas stuff, going to some of the Christmas markets, making Christmas crafts, just having a week for him to get caught up or work on some of his Christmas projects. But with different weather delays, our construction didn't get quite as finished as we wanted it. And so this week has been a week of construction with the interruption of this other project needing to have a delivery made on Tuesday. So when we found out that all of a sudden we were a couple weeks early, and it was Sunday, after a few minutes of panic, I told my husband, all right, due to the time zones, etc., let's go about our day Monday, because we planned on getting out and going early to do our and have lunch to do our Christmas stuff. said, let's go do that on Monday, especially since it got really cold. Let's go do that. And we did. We went out, we went to a store that we hadn't been before, looked at the Christmas decorations. The place we wanted to go for lunch, they obviously had some issues. So we went, and we're just not open. So we went somewhere else, but we walked around. We bought some tasty chocolates at a shop called Chocolate Paper. And it's been a long time since I've had just yummy, chocolate covered orange jellies. Oh, a Christmas favorite from when I was a kid. We had a lovely lunch. We came home. Oh, no. We had to stop at the big box hardware store. The one we ended up going to Lowe's because we had put the big tree up, hoping to decorate it over the weekend. Only when it was all said and done, we were short one strand of lights. And I think we had had an issue with one of the strands a few years ago, but what we did, knowing that we had one strand fewer, we just spread the lights out a little bit further. So my husband got the whole tree done, except for the top part of the tree had no lights. So we were going to just stop at Lowe's and pick up one box of lights. Well, they didn't have anything at all like what we currently had on the tree. We went ahead and bought a box to see if they might work. They didn't. I suspected that they probably wouldn't match because the ones that we had on the tree have a kind of a quilted textured plastic light shade thingy on it, fixture on them. And yeah, they completely changed the way the lights look. So one of the things we noticed though is just prior to us arriving, the store had put all of their Christmas decorations 50% off. And I was like, well, we know that we're going to need new, different lights. And we have, different trees. So we can still use the old lights that still work on a different tree, give them to the kids, whatever. So we went ahead and bought new lights, and they didn't have, as they were wiped out of the lights that we would have wanted normally for our indoor tree. Instead, what we decided to do was go for the little bit bigger, not the big giant ones, but the ones that are about that big. And for both of us, they reminded us, and we had forgotten how much we do remember this from when we were little kids. But our Christmas trees, when we were really young, had the big lights on them. So we bought lights for the big tree that are now about that big. Completely changes the look of this tree. I'm not sure I'm going to put ornaments on it this year, but one of the things that, because we're just getting tired, the crazy has kind of stopped that. And it looks really lovely. I did get the lights on. I got up early this morning because I couldn't sleep, and I put the lights on the tree. And ornaments of that size, I think are going to look really good on this tree with those big lights. So our little ornaments have been gradually moving to these smaller trees. But an ornament this size on my big tree, that I'm really seeing how that's going to be maybe the way it looks in the future. And that just reminded me, I've made a whole bunch of ornaments for my daughter that are about this size. I may actually, that may be one of my resting projects that I do, is maybe I'll just borrow all of her ornaments that have never made it out of the box. I'm still working on putting all the bling on them. But yeah, I think I may have solved the decorating the tree crisis of 2023. There is a lot of story behind this, and someday I may share more of it. But for now, let me just tell you, there was one other thing that came home with us from the hardware store. There was a tall, skinny, and yes, it is tall. It is a good 7.5 foot tall tree, but it's really skinny. And the lights on it were iffy. My husband repaired them, and then somehow in the time it took those last couple days to then me move it to another room, the lights all still now work because he had repaired it, but the top half is one set of colors and the bottom half is another. So if you think about the top tip of the tree being multicolored and the bottom being white, hey, what's the problem? But the tree came home with us because not only was it now marked down, it didn't have a box and it was damaged. So I got a very, very good deal on this tall, skinny, what I'm calling my Linus tree. And it goes back to what I mentioned in my last video about moving towards having decorations, having Christmas stuff that I could do on my own if I needed to, or, get set up. But I also, in bringing it home, it is a tall, skinny tree. And I'm calling it the Linus tree because I think it would have been the price point made it appealing. If you had a small apartment, it would be nice. But it's the kind of tree that could possibly look a little sad and may not have sold other than to the crazy woman who keeps filling her house with more trees. But I have it in my sewing room, and I do, once the crazy of this week is less, I do plan to make some more ornaments and decoration. And one of the things I want to work on is the decorations. Specifically, I have a set of decorations that are a theme of decorations that I want to do for my daughter. And I think it will actually be easier going into the next year with that tree in the sewing room, that I can put things on to get scale better, to see how it's going to look, to see, So I'm going to probably have that Christmas tree up through a good portion of next year. Mainly because it's a good prop. It's a good place to try out things. So that, yes, the lady with already many trees came home on Monday with another Christmas tree. My husband, he is such a kind man. He is so tolerant of my craziness. So I'm going to show a picture here before I forget and before I show the EPP. He was working on the construction. I have been in the garage working on the other project. I can't share about it right now because it's connected. It's connected to some of the things that caused me to shut down my video this summer. It's not the right time yet. What I did want to say is that it is a crazy time. I've been in the garage every day for long hours. I'm functioning on lots of anti-inflammatories. There's not much of my body that doesn't really hurt at any given moment. But I feel actually a lot better than I have felt in a long time. And I'm recording this for posterity and for you that follow me every week. The thing I was dreading, and I promise you, I'm still stuffy because of they're saying that it's pollution. I just don't think I can quite kick this head cold. I'm not crying. I haven't been crying. But the thing I'd been dreading a little bit, which I was expecting to emotionally deal with between Christmas and New Year's, came early. And I've been in the garage sorting and prepping and dealing with something that technically is an extraordinarily emotional and stressful time. And instead of feeling sad, I actually have felt my spirit lighten. Because while I still can't really talk about it yet, it's reminded me that I am closer to the end of this specific journey than the beginning. And that things can be good. Things can be good again. Things can be good now. It's all in the perspective. And it's all in staying busy and not... One of the things that happens when difficult times arrive on our doorstep is worry, sadness, stress. These things weigh on us. They make us heavy. They make us heavy, and that makes us tired, just as if we're carrying a big weight. And we can't avoid these things in life. No one gets to go through life without sorrow, without grief, without fear, without worry. But as heavy as it is and as exhausted as we get, the one thing that overcomes that is the desire to stay moving. Maybe we're moving slower, but if we keep getting up and move, we move. And that's the thing. This is the first time since this journey started this summer that there's been a number of things that I've been able to help with. But this is the first time that the help has been physical demand. And yeah, it hurts. It physically hurts. But it emotionally lifts all that weight. It emotionally lifts the weight. So we need to remember to keep moving. Now, for those of you that are my spinner friends, you'll know that's why I spin, is to keep moving. Even on the worst possible days, I can keep moving. So, unexpected reminder that to keep moving, because one of the things with one of the sets of physical issues that I have is that I have to constantly remind myself that a lot of the pain I'm experiencing isn't due to actual injury. And it's reminding my brain that movement is better. Now, if you're really injured, you have to have some rest, etc. But when your body is tricking you, when your body is malfunctioning, sometimes the way to overcome the pain is actually just to get up and move. To stop moving actually increases the pain. It's not something I expected to have reminding of in this Christmas season, but it has been a blessing. And there will be highs and lows, but we're making progress. And that's what's important. So, my English paper piecing block. The block is called, I've named it Morning Frost. I have these little zipper bags that I use, and I put all the pieces in little plastic bags. I will do my very best to make this pattern clear as to how to do some segments. This one, the pieces all look like they're supposed to be the same size, and they're not. And it was the worst of worst puzzles to put together. So I will go back into my pattern before I upload it and I will try to group things, show things that how you'd want to sew components together, and then sew the components into this star. Because I suspect the original block, the pieces were all nice and symmetrical and probably very similar. Now, I'll bring it in close. You can see I had to really simplify things. I just went with yellow as opposed to having two different colors here because this shape and this shape are not the same. And they're deceptive. They're not the same. So I think I will do my best to group these so that they may be a little easier. This is one that you sit down, you make sure you mark all your pieces, before you cut them out. You make sure you keep track of it. You have it, in fact, having it laid out in a puzzle as you're sewing them together might have made it easier. But I managed on very little brain cells, and I can barely do this right now. As I said, I have messed everything up. But there's the original. So I'll bring it in close. You can see it's supposed to have more colors. I made it work. It was a leap of faith. Oh my goodness, this star was a leap of faith this week. You may notice I haven't taken the papers because I finished sewing the borders on about 15 minutes before I started recording. So this gave me a way to show you too. You'll see how, because of the cardboard being stiff and because of the cardboard taking up space, you'll see it buckles, it bows. That's okay. You sew the pieces together, you take all of the papers out, and it will lie flat for you. I managed to have all my points. I'll show a picture of it, I'm sure. I'll have a picture go up on my Instagram. If you haven't checked out my Instagram, recently I forgot to take the short video over onto YouTube. It was so perfect with my cats sitting by here in the rocking chair and in front of the tree. And it was so perfectly done to the Instagram, the music to the Grinch. I didn't test to see if YouTube would flag it, if it, used the same. It's always a little different between the two platforms. But if you haven't had a chance, go over and take a look at the reel that I did. It's also on my Facebook. So if you're on Facebook or Instagram, you can see it on either one. But my cats, they've been just so sweet. They have really actually left the tree fairly alone. The tree's fairly alone. They enjoy playing with my lighting behind the camera more than they do the tree. So I know I've rambled. I've been all over here. My 15-minute, this should not have been any longer than a 15-minute video. Here we go. We'll just hold it. We'll hold it like a little baby. See if we can get him in a shot. My 15-minute video is now twice as long. But we are now 10 days till Christmas. Or fewer, depending on when you're watching this. And I managed to bring something to you this week, despite the early arrival of the reason I'm building a shed in my backyard, or / tiny house. So, it is a good Christmas season. It is a crazy one. If I could discuss more, it's one of those things I think I said in July. It's not my crisis. I'm along for the ride. So therefore, that's why I'm not giving out any other details. But if I could share just how crazy this week has been, I think you understand that sometimes the greatest Christmas miracles, blessings, come in packages that are anything but pretty. I really needed the crazy this week, not after Christmas. So, I'm having a wonderful Christmas season. I hope you are, and I hope you're taking some time to unwind with fiber and fabric. And until next week, and whatever project I can throw together before then, I actually do have a list of things. This was actually on my list of things to share with you. I'm so glad I didn't do it any earlier than this week. But until next week, I wish you the best. I hope that you can take some time to unwind with fiber and fabric, and maybe things will settle down and I'll have some other fun stuff to share in a few days. Until then, happy holidays.